we need to talk about how to choose a telescope in 2026, because astronomy has changed so much in the last few years with smart telescopes hitting the market and several telescope manufacturers going out of business. This means that what you might have considered purchasing a few years ago either doesn't exist or doesn't make financial sense. So I'm going to talk about a dozen or so options that might make sense for you if you're just getting started. If we haven't met, I'm astronomer John Reed, and about 10 years ago, I quit my job to do astronomy full-time. I own pretty much every type of telescope, including almost every beginner telescope, smart telescope, and some big telescopes too. I make a living writing the world's best stargazing guidebooks. So if you're having any trouble with your telescope, I recommend our latest book, The Ultimate Beginner Telescope Guidebook, with free shipping when you buy direct. Anyway, for this video, I'm going to assume that you're just getting into astronomy, have a budget in mind, and are looking for your first or second telescope. Also note that this video is not sponsored, though many of these telescopes were given to me over the years by the manufacturer. So a few years ago, I made a video called A Telescope for Every Budget. It had a big flowchart and paired your budget with the type of observing you were interested in doing. I made this because it's difficult to get people to understand that there's a right telescope for every job, and there's no unicorn telescope that does it all. Now, before we dive into traditional telescopes, I want to point out that a lot of people get interested in telescopes thinking that they're interested in stargazing, but then realize that what they're really interested in is astrophotography, which is a completely different hobby with a completely different set of requirements. Now, astrophotography used to be far more expensive, but not anymore. If you think astrophotography might be for you, but you're on a limited budget, the smart telescope might be for you. Examples of smart telescopes under $500 are the Seestar S30 and the Dwarf Labs Dwarf Mini. So if you're not into photography and you just want to see cool things with the least amount of stress possible, you'll need to match what you want to accomplish to your budget a bit more carefully, and try to avoid all the spyglasses and spotting scopes on the market pretending to be astronomical telescopes. But how do you know what to avoid? Well, here are a few red flags. The biggest red flag is simply the tripod. If the telescope is connected to the tripod without a mount in between, then it's not designed for space and probably won't be any fun. The next thing to watch out for is the diagonal. That's this thing here. If the diagonal is 45 degrees, like this one, I'm gonna have to assume you're buying this to spy on your neighbors and not for looking at space. Also note that these tiny finders are nearly impossible to use, and a good finder is a requirement for finding things in the night sky. Here are some other things to watch out for that simply make this hobby less fun. For example, decorative mounts like this one. These are included on pretty much any telescope with EQ in the name. And these mounts are clearly designed for decorative purposes only because they don't tend to function well enough for tracking objects as they move across the sky. The gears tend to slip easily, they require a lot of maintenance, and they don't stay polar aligned. Another red flag is the rod and yoke mount. Now, these are less popular now, and some people have found some success with them, but the issue is they're just rickety, and I don't think they're any fun to use. So after you remove all the telescopes with these red flags, there's not a whole lot left on the market under, let's say, $500. But on the other hand, that sort of simplifies things, since really there's only going to be a few telescopes at each price point that are actually worth picking up. And if these prices seem expensive, then like me, you should consider the used market as well, since telescopes don't really age and basically last forever. One piece of advice for picking up a telescope used is to know exactly the model of telescope you want before you start searching for it. That way you can avoid being distracted by all the junk telescopes that people are selling because they weren't able to get them working. I should point out that if your budget's below $200 and you're interested in seeing deep sky objects, a simple pair of binoculars will do the trick. Now, I recommend 10x50 binoculars, but in the $100 price range, astronomy binoculars are available as well. And if you do get into the hobby of stargazing with binoculars, definitely check out my classic book, 50 Things to See with Binoculars in Space. All right, so let's go down the line and talk about your options. Now, if you only want to look at the moon and only want to see Saturn's rings and Jupiter's moons and the phases of Venus, then we can look at these small aperture scopes. To me, that's anything under 100 millimeters of aperture. But because I think people want to see deep sky objects with ease as well, these aren't typically telescopes I recommend. I don't tend to have any of these beginner small aperture scopes on hand because they're simply not that useful. Now there are absolutely small aperture telescopes that I absolutely love, like the SCTi and the Skywatcher Evolux. Those are two great small aperture telescopes. They just don't tend to fall into the budget category. Now it's important to understand that although the eyepiece and the telescope's focal length combination determines the magnification, the aperture determines how much of that magnification is actually useful. The higher the aperture, the better objects will appear at higher magnifications. That's because aperture determines the resolution of the telescope. This is why, at minimum, for entry-level telescopes, I used to recommend the 102mm refractor. Now, I found these refractors, which used to be found for around $200, to provide superior views to almost every other beginner telescope out there. Now, there is some chromatic aberration around bright objects like the moon and planets, but I also found that this was mitigated by pairing the telescope with a high-quality eyepiece, some of which have coatings to help with this. I also made a whole video on this topic where we tested several premium eyepieces. Now the 102mm lines of telescopes also come in this 1000mm focal length version, which helps reduce the chromatic aberration as well. Examples include this Explore Scientific First Light, and I've still seen the Celestron Omni 102, the 1000mm version, kicking around on the market as well. Although that one's on an EQ mount, which might be a little bit much for beginners. The current issue with the 102 telescopes is that recently they've either been harder to find or they've gone up in price, which brings us to the small Newtonian. But there's a catch. There's another red flag you're gonna have to watch out for here, and that's a type of Newtonian that's been nicknamed Bird Jones. These are Newtonians typically with apertures of 114 or 127mm. Now these Bird Jones telescopes typically use lower quality optics and attempt to get high magnification by sticking an extra lens here in the focusing assembly. Now, star clusters that I could easily pick up in these 102 refractors were completely invisible in this 114 Newtonian. Now, a great example of a telescope that does not have this Bird Jones issue is the 100mm tabletop Dobsonian, which I think is great for little kids. Now this little Zumo Z100 version can be a little bit hard to find these days, but it's since been rebranded as the Celestron Moon Mission. And when Orion made these, it was called the Sky Scanner, and you may be able to find one of those kicking around as well. And for teenagers and adults, there's the 130mm lineup of telescopes. Here's one from Celestron, which they use in both their StarSense lineup and their computerized NextStar SLT lineup. And then from Skywatcher, we have the Skywatcher Heritage 130, which comes in a 150mm version as well. They also use both of those scopes in their computerized Virtuoso series. Now the really nice thing about the Skywatcher Heritage series is that they're still found for around $300, making this one of the most cost-effective beginner telescopes on the market today that's actually designed for looking at space. All right, moving on to compact Maks and CAT telescopes. These are higher aperture telescopes with long focal lengths in small packages. These are obviously much smaller than a Dobsonian, but are very portable. Now examples of these include the Celestron StarSense DX5, which is an SCT telescope, and this Mak telescope made by Svbony. Now I found the performance between these two telescopes to be very similar. I've traveled with both of these telescopes and they effectively require no maintenance. The downside is that their focal lengths are so high, giving them naturally high magnifications. This can make it challenging to find some targets in certain circumstances. And last but not least, we have the classic Dobsonian telescope, which used to be by far the best option for most beginner stargazers. Before the pandemic, this 6-inch version was often found for under $200, but is now often over $500. An 8-inch Dobsonian used to be the default telescope recommendation by so many astronomers, but now these seem to average around $700. With basic versions coming in at around $600 and premium versions like the StarSense DX8 coming in closer to $900. That said, I had a lot of fun with the StarSense system. We've got a video on that as well. In any case, if you're thinking about buying a Dobsonian, it's helpful to add a Telrad or other bullseye type finder. The big advantage of these bullseye finders is that if you look at any stargazing guidebook, including the Ultimate Beginner Telescope Guidebook, you'll notice Telrad rings on every star map. This is so you can easily line up your telescope using the reference stars. So once in a while, I get asked for a recommendation for a beginner telescope costing around $2,000. And this really comes down to personal preference. Do you want to optimize for go-to capabilities, in which case you're looking at a larger SCT, or are you looking purely at light gathering, in which case you're looking at a large Dobsonian? Now there are also premium smart telescopes on the market like the Vaonis Vespera if you're into quality images, or the Unistellar Odyssey Pro if you're looking at that augmented eyepiece experience. Okay, so I know that was a lot, but I hoped it helped you choose your first or second telescope. I'm astronomer John Reed. Check the link below to make sure you're subscribed, and if you're having any trouble with your new telescope, pick up a copy of the Ultimate Beginner Telescope Guidebook. It will help. And remember, the future is looking up. Okay, stay. I'm gonna do this one more time.